Awesome, Joe. So looking forward to this interview. I've been stalking you for years, as you know, and I read your story, and I was so moved by it. So here it's, what is it, like almost 10 o'clock, 9:40 here in San Diego. That's why it's so dark by me, and you're there now about an hour north of Sydney. So thanks for agreeing to this interview.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So yeah, I have a couple questions here. So tell me about your healing journey. You know, what worked, what didn't, why did you make the choices you made, things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Back when I first started on my healing journey, it really started when I reached a point where I had had enough. I said that's it. No more to myself. So I practically said no to the illness and yes to the healing. And the reason I said no is because I was fed up. I was full of anger. There was nothing helping me. And it doesn't matter what I tried. I kept feeling ill, and my quality of life was very poor. Although I was doing okay in my business, it was creating a lot of stress for me at the time, and I thought that stress was a contributor. And I felt that the emotions that I was feeling at the time because of the business was contributing as well, but it wasn't just that. There were a number of other things, and I wasn't sure what it was. And so I just started looking, I started researching, and I started asking myself, what is it that I can do to heal from this? And I would ask myself as much as I could, and that's where it all started for me.
Wow, okay. And when were you first diagnosed?
When I was 23, so now I'm 41, so that's 18 years ago.
And that was with Crohn's, right?
Yep.
So you were diagnosed with Crohn's at 23, but did you recognize any gut pain prior to that? Like maybe growing up or in your teens?
No. I started realizing a little bit of pain at 23, not a lot, and some discharge as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kept happening again. I wasn't sure what it was. Went to the GP. They did a test and then sent me to a GI. Tested me, and then that was my diagnosis came in. And then I went to a different GI again. And they diagnosed me again. So that was two GIs. So I went to two different specialists to make sure that that's what it was. Yeah.
And what do those two GIs recommend as far as treatment plan?
Medication.
You remember which ones?
Prednisone.
Uh-huh.
6MP.
Yep.
One, which is mesalazine was another one.
Yep.
And there was another one as well. There's about a couple of others. I don't even remember the names that I tried, because I'll try one medication. So first of all, they'll just give me one, and then that wasn't working good enough, and then I'll go back, and then they'll give me another one, and then they'll give me another one. It got to a point where I was taking 4 or 5 different ones. The last of which, now towards the end, the one that worked the best for me was Remicade.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Remicade. You've heard of that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Now Remicade, it was a temporary fix. Like, I would feel I'll be at my worst. I'd go to the specialist, the GI, and say, look, I can't do this anymore. What else can you do for me? The medication is not working. I've tried everything you've said. And he's like, oh, let's try this Remicade. It's quite new. It hasn't been approved yet or something. And that we can put some of our patients on it, and if you want to try it, give it a go and see how you go. I go, all right. So I tried it out, and you'd go into hospital for a day and go on a drip, and it would give me a good 2 or 3 months. In the beginning, it was giving me a good 3 or 4 months of feeling better. Uh-huh. It wasn't remission or anything, but the pain would go away. I'd be hungry again. I'd be happy to eat again. I wouldn't have to go to the bathroom as often, and all of that. All of that started going. That made me feel pretty good. But then 3 or 4 months later, I'll drop again, have to go see the specialist again, and then go back again. So eventually it went from 4 or 5 months down to maybe 2 months, every 2 months having to go. And then the treatment, it wouldn't, so the more I was taking it, the less it was helping me, pretty much.
Got
It's
it.
like maybe my body was getting immune to it or getting used to it or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And even that drug had a lot of side effects to it, um, which I didn't like. And every drug that I took had so many side effects, and I just thought that was ridiculous. There had to be something else.
What sort of side effects do you remember from, particularly the Remicade, since that was the one that worked the best for you?
It didn't have side effects, or for me, it wouldn't have major side effects in terms of, because they said the side effects were like bronchitis and respiratory problems and all that kind of stuff, which I didn't get, which was great. And so in that case, it was probably more beneficial for me because it helped me improve. I felt a little better, and than I would without it, and I wasn't seeing those side effects immediately. But the long time side effects were breathing problems, and there were others. I don't remember the entirety of the side effects
Yeah.
though.
No, I've read a lot of them. Yeah. So it sounds
I didn't want to
pretty
put
mild.
myself in the. Sorry.
And it sounds like the side effects were fortunately pretty mild, except it just wasn't working to keep Crohn's in long-term remission.
That's right. But one thing that it did offer me is, I think, looking back now, I haven't realised this until recently. Maybe it offered me that little bit of relief, for a while to maybe give me a bit more hope, that there's something else, or make me feel a little bit clearer, that. And I think that's important. Moving towards a healing process, it's important to get yourself to a place where there's a bit of relief. So it's kind of a step by step,
Sure. So,
Yeah.
so when Remicade, the months got smaller and smaller on how often you had to go, and it wasn't working. What did you look for alternative-wise? What did you seek?
Yeah. Well, I started looking at myself and thinking, because I would, getting to that place, I was asking myself the question, I would ask, what is it that I can do to heal myself? What is it that I can do to improve my health? And I would constantly ask myself, and sometimes, I'd ask myself in the morning, at night, during the day, just, on odd occasions. And, I'd have these little answers that would come up, like answers like a better diet, exercise, yoga, seeking alternative medicine, maybe acupuncture, a number of other things. I was thinking, not managing my stress better. And so I then started searching for all of these. One at a time, So, one of the, I found a Chinese medicine lady nearby that I went and saw, and she helped me create a diet plan. She helped me, she did acupuncture for me. She gave me some herbal treatment, herbal medicine. So, it was actually fresh. She had fresh ingredients. It wasn't in capsules or anything like that. She actually had fresh herbs.
Okay.
And I used them as well. So I started taking that.
How'd that work for you? How the herbs work for you?
Though it tasted terrible. I really didn't like doing it. Like every day I'd have to drink it. But look, I feel that it probably helped. I feel that the diet helped because I was on a diet at the same time. I changed my diet dramatically. I feel that acupuncture helped, but even 4 weeks into it, nothing was helping. It didn't help until after that. So the first 4 weeks, I actually lost more weight. I was already as slim as it was.
Yeah.
And my health hadn't improved at all. I felt like it wasn't improving at all. And by the way, I was continuing my medication.
Okay.
During this process, I kept continuing my medication. 4 sets of meds. I hadn't taken Remicade at this point for like about 4 months, which means that I was sinking. I was getting to my lowest again.
But you were on other medications as well?
Yes, I was on other medication, but those medications, if to me it felt like they weren't doing anything, But I would take them out of fear that if I didn't keep taking them, that I would just get worse. So I had this fear in me that if I stopped my medication, I would just get, completely bad, and I would have to get surgery. I have no other choice, and all that. And so out of fear, I kept taking it, and maybe it was a good thing. Maybe it helped me not get to that place where I needed to have surgery.
So when was the last time you took like IBD, Crohn's related medication?
About 7 years ago.
7 years ago. Now, how did you get to the point where you knew it was okay to taper down or stop? I mean, that's obviously a tough decision.
Yeah, so this is what I did. I said, okay, so I did all these new things for myself. So managing my emotions, thinking positively, increasing my gratitude was huge as well for me. Every day I would wake up and list things that I'm grateful for, even if it's just the fact that I can see.
Yeah.
So I focused on the four bodies. So spiritually, I increased my faith in the unknown, in my faith in that there is something else that I don't know about that has power, something that connects us all. I increased my positive mental capacity in the way that I thinking that yes, this is all possible, and knowing although the negative thoughts are there, knew that there was also a positive way of looking at things. Instead of looking at things negatively, I could look at things in a positive way. There's always a reason for something. Managing my emotions better, I started that process, and also then there was the exercise, the yoga, and all of that as well. So I was doing all of these different things. I brought all these new things into my life. Now what happened is about at the 6-week mark, my health started to improve. I started to feel better, and so I just kept doing what I was doing, to continue that. So when it got to around about the 3-month mark, I decided things were getting better and better and better. I decided to start weaning off my medication, my Crohn's prescribed medication, all right? Because all of a sudden I felt it was almost remission-like, to the point where the pains were quite minimal, very minimal, and I had much more energy in my life and all of that.
What did your GI or Chinese medicine doctor think when either you told them or didn't tell them that you were tapering off the meds?
Yeah, well, what happened? Yeah, so I didn't see the GI yet. I decided to tape off the meds before I saw the GI.
Okay.
Right, because I wanted to see the GI afterwards and say, This is what I've done. All right. So, because I had faith, I had confidence. At that point, I started to become more confident. Although I was confident, I still have doubts. Everybody has doubts whenever they do anything new or try something. So, what I did is I slowly tapered off the meds, very slowly, one bit at a time. It probably took me about 3 months to taper off all of my meds completely, right? So to the point where I had no more meds left. So I would start. So I had 4 different types of meds. I would choose one med and say, okay, this week I'm going to drop that smaller and smaller and smaller, and then the next one, smaller and smaller, and then the next one, all right?
Yep.
And then eventually I stopped taking my herbal treatment as well. So no more herbs. I actually stopped doing yoga because I still believe that yoga is a great thing to do, but I stopped doing it regularly because I had other things that I was putting my mind towards, and my time towards. And I thought, I should get a checkup. I'm feeling good.
Sorry about that. I guess the 7,000 miles between us causes bad internet. So you were saying you were tapering off the meds, and then you were tapering off the herbs as well.
Yeah, so I tapered off the herbs. even the diet, I started introducing some of the foods that I enjoyed back. Not that it wasn't enjoyable the other way, but some of the old foods that I would have, like for example, I used to like having fried foods, or hot potato chips, or you know um, a good burger here and there, and that I stopped eating for a while, but I started to slowly introduce all my old foods back as well. Went to the GI and said, look, this is what I've done. I've gone off my meds. They did a colonoscopy, and it all came back, pretty good. Like there was still very small signs that the Crohn's was still there. Like they could still see, spots and so on. There was some very some ulcers and some signs of Crohn's. And he said, "Look," and I said to him, "I go, look, do you think that I need medication? I've gone off them. I'm feeling well. Do you think that it's a good idea that I continue this?" He goes, "Whatever it is that you're doing, just keep doing it. If that's what you're doing, then that. So he was actually surprised that I was able to get to that point, and just said to me, "Whatever it is, just do it." So I was surprised that he didn't ask me more questions as to exactly what it was, that I was doing, so he could help other patients. But I suppose they've got a good reason for that.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, well, it sounds like you had a supportive, doctor, which is always a plus. So it sounds
Yeah.
like your last colonoscopy, is this true? Your last colonoscopy was 7 years ago?
No, that colonoscopy was approximately 7 years ago. Yes, but approximately 2 years ago, I had another colonoscopy, and this was about 4 years after I was clear.
Yep.
4 years without any symptoms, without medication, without any special diet, or without any special changes that I had continued. So after 4 years that I was clear, I went back and got a colonoscopy. Yeah, and what they found is that the results were that it was definitely a clinical remission that I had induced. So he was labeling it as self-induced clinical remission.
Wow. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Now, to get to, there's another term. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called mucosal healing.
Of course, yeah. The mucosal of the gut, correct.
Yeah, and mucosal healing apparently takes years to get to after you've reached clinical remission.
Mm.
And I'm at that point. I was not up to that as yet.
That was
Okay,
uh, that was 2 years ago.
that was 2 years ago. Yep.
Okay.
So one of my plans is to, you know, go, get checked up again eventually. So, hopefully I can get to a point where I can claim that it is mucosal healing.
Wow. Okay. That's great. When do you plan on doing that?
After, well, I want to go on a uh, vegetable diet.
Okay.
So I want to abolish meats from my diet for two reasons, and one is the fact that I'm pretty sensitive to the way that animals are treated on the planet,
Yeah.
and the other way is because I know that there are health benefits as well,
Got it.
and so I'd like to do that, and once I've done that, no, I can get a complete examination of myself, including that, and I want to know where it is. And I'd like to do that at least for a few months first, and so I'm thinking it depends on how long it takes me to get there. It's not an easy thing to just give up meat. Um, I'm kind of semi meatless now, like I'm halfway there. Um, and so maybe in another year or two, yeah.
Wow. Cool. Okay. Um, so let me ask you. So some people I've noticed with IBD feel very burdened with disease, and they go into a victim mentality. Woe is me, and others see it as a gift, and it provides guidance in their life. Do you identify with either of those mindsets?
Yeah, well, definitely, I believe that I was a victim. I had that victim mentality where I have Crohn's, and this is who I am, and this is how I need to live, and there's no other way. and so I would go to work, um, work hard, come home, and wouldn't feel well, and go on the medication and go and see the GI whenever I could, get checked up, and the cycle begins again, and it's just endless, and I would I would be in that place of victimizing myself, and you know why me, why do I have to suffer,
Right. And
you know.
at some point that might have changed.
Well, at some point, the why me becomes why do I have to suffer?
Yeah.
What's the reason? What's the reason behind it? So then I start questioning. When I started to question myself is when it started opening up for me. And I think I started questioning things after I had a life changing experience. Before that, it was about 3 years ago. 3 years before I started my healing journey. My wife at the time, who's now my ex-wife, who I have a great relationship with, by the way, as friends. Um, at the time, she almost died from a brain aneurysm,
Mm.
and she actually passed. Her pulse actually stopped, and for about a minute, I think it was. So she actually died for a minute, you could say, but she was revived through CPR and went to hospital. And that's another long story in itself. But that was about a six week experience, from the moment that um, the bubble burst in her brain to the moment that she came home. And it was a very life changing experience, especially spiritually. But through that there were other things that kind of happened, and that kind of I went through as a person, and we went through together, actually, me and my ex-wife. And so from that it started, me thinking outside the box a bit more, questioning a bit more than what I used to question, about myself,
Mm.
and what's possible. you know the key ingredient for me was what is possible, and yeah, and stepping outside of that victim mentality to be like, okay, well, something else is possible here, and why is this happening to me? So, and that constant questioning of self led me to a point to say, okay, well, there's a good reason why this is happening, all right? What can I do to make myself better? What can I do to heal from this? And as I said before, I kept asking those questions, and by constantly asking myself those questions, I started finding these answers, but answers that I wasn't sure of. I followed my gut. if you, if It's probably the best way I can put it. To kind of just go with it, and just find these ways. And now I'm realizing now that uh, the reason it was there for me, I believe the reason that it was there for me is so I can realize that the way I was living my life is not the way I'm meant to. I was not meant to live my life that way, to be working hard for money and stressing over that, and coming home and not not really experiencing life to its full potential. And at the same time also realizing that I'm here to help others as well. So I feel that now that my calling is to live my life to its full potential, and the reasons why I'm here. I'm here to do that and to assist others as well. And so now I feel that that's what I'm doing. So therefore, and if it wasn't for Crohn's disease, I don't think that I'll be doing this right now. I'll probably still be working, a job that I'm not really too happy with, but I'm doing it for money, and buying investments and whatever, and just focusing on building wealth without the love of what I'm doing.
Right. So it sounds like
So
it was a gift to you.
that's right. I think the gift is that. Yeah, the gift is, you know, wake up, do something that you love, and help other people.
There you go. Yeah, that's beautiful. I've come to that realization myself, and that's amazing that I've taken courses and books and here and there, but I'm gathering, at least from what you shared, that you've gotten to that point on your own, by asking yourself questions. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is ask yourself a question, and the first answer is I don't know. Like, did you ever have that happen where you ask a question and they're like, what is possible? And you're like, I don't know, or why
Yeah,
do I feel this way? I don't know. How did you handle that sort of
mm,
internal conversation?
yeah. Every time I ask myself, the first answer is I don't know.
Mm.
every single time. Even now, even now when I go through a situation that I'm not doesn't make me feel good emotionally, I ask myself, what is it about me that's put me in this situation? And my first answer is always, I don't know. And that ties a little bit with the victim mentality. I think if you remain in that place is what I think for me anyway. Because saying I don't know, I'm just stuck in this place. That's the victim there. I don't know, I'm just stuck right now, and I don't know the answer, and that's that, right? At that point, when we say that to ourselves, I think that we're limiting ourselves to what else is possible. So what I said, the self-talk is, yeah, as you're saying, Joel, it is very important. Like, saying I don't know to myself is being honest with myself. It's not being negative. That's the first step to realize. And then beyond the I don't know, it's then realizing that I do have an answer here. So my first answer is I don't know, and my second answer is I do have an answer.
Mm.
Can I find the answer now? No. All right, keep trying. If it could be anything, what could it be? If it could be anything at all, what's possible based on all the knowledge that you have, right? What could this be? And I kept digging, and by having faith that the answer will come, believing in myself, is a big key as well. Knowing that the answer will come, and eventually the answer does come.
Wow.
And even then, when the answer comes, I still don't know if it's the right answer. The answer comes, and I'm like, I question it. Yeah, this is what. If it could be anything at all, it could be this. All right, even if it's drinking extra water, right?
And it could change at some time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It could, but most of the time, for me, it doesn't change. There's just additions to it, right? So, for example, to keep it simple, how can I become a healthier person? What is it that I can do? All right, it'll be I don't know. Then it'll be like, well, I know I have the answer somewhere. I believe in myself. What if could be anything on this planet right now? What could that answer be? And I would say to myself, let's say it's drinking double the amount of water every day. Right? I know, and the reason I'm saying that is because I know that water itself has a lot of healing properties, right?
Right.
Especially if it's filtered water, and so start drinking extra water. But as I'm doing that, I'll be like, I'll ask myself, is this enough? Is there something more? And then something else will come. Okay, well maybe I need to drink extra water and do something else, and go out and exercise. Okay, how's this going for me? So it's that constant questioning, and one answer may develop into 10 different answers, but then the first answer may not be the best one, right? So it's a matter of trying all of them. It's like any successful person will tell you that the reason that they're successful is because they failed so many times. You know, so it's a matter of taking those chances. Because what I did is I took chances on myself. I took risks. There were other people that had Crohn's that would say to me, "Joe, you're crazy. You're just going to make things worse for yourself. That you're doing this. You can't go off the meds. You can't do this. You can't do that." So and at that point, I'm like, well, yeah, I am taking a risk. I'm taking a risk. I could make my health worse here, but I'm not prepared to continue living the way I'm living. I'm prepared to take my chances to get somewhere better.
Yeah, I feel like the underlying message I keep hearing is what is possible. That's like the underlying question that you ask yourself to reach for, greater limits of where you're currently at.
That's right. That's right. Asking those questions of what is possible and doing the research. I did tons of research, and even while I'm during the healing process, I still question: Am I going to get there? Am I going to get to a point where the word I used to use for myself is cured, because I believe that I could cure myself.
Mm.
Right? That was my belief, but I can't use that these days. If I write about it or talk about it, apparently it's not an appropriate word to use, and
Well,
I
so
suppose.
so disregarding what everyone thinks, just what does Joe feel? Does Joe consider himself cured?
And that's another funny question because my definition of cured today has changed to what it was back then.
Ah, okay.
Because I think that everything is a healing process. Everything is healing. I believe that I am healed from Crohn's disease. I believe that I have healed myself from Crohn's disease. I don't believe in cures, full stop.
Oh, in
I
in
don't,
general of anything, you don't believe in cures.
no, full
Yeah.
stop. There's no, as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe in cures anymore.
Okay.
I believe in healing. And there are two different words. Some people will say, "Oh, well, it's the same thing, Joe." Well, I'm like, well, it's not. I don't think like out there. There's a lot going on. There's some billions of dollars being spent on trying to cure cancer.
Right.
And the question is, will they ever really cure cancer? Or is it just really treatment? You know,
Right.
to make people feel better about it. But the cancer is still in the system. You know,
Right. So
so
so bottom line is that you consider yourself fully healed, but you don't believe anything can be cured, so you're not cured, but you're fully healed.
that's right. But I'm sorry if this is confusing things on where I'm at and how I think about it, because um, during the process, I would say to myself, I'm going to kill myself, cure.
Hmm.
And I would tell others that had Crohn's, I'm going to cure myself. And they would say, no, Joe, you're crazy. It's ridiculous. You can't do that. Right. And so, as I was healing, I would still say to myself, I am curing from Crohn's. And then I would question myself. I would think, am I ever going to be cured? Am I ever going to get to the point where I don't have Crohn's symptoms any longer and the Crohn's is completely out of my system? I would question that. But I would keep having the faith and keep trying, keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And I would keep doing research. And I came across, during my healing process, I came across, I don't know if you've heard of Bruce Lipton.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and he talks a lot about, stress factors and the fight and flight, and how that affects our bodies and how our minds affect our bodies and our cells. And I came across Joe Dispenza, who's got some good stuff as well in relation to our minds and how we think and how that all affects our bodies and the addictions that we have to different things, including the way that we think. Addiction to having that victim mentality is an addiction in itself. Because we want to keep feeling that because our cells and our bodies ask for it and so on. And so I came across all this as I was healing. As I was getting better and better and better, I started coming across all this new information, which just gave me more strength to continue. It just gave me reassurance. Like for example, the first time I saw Bruce, I'm like, wow, this is exactly what I thought. But the way that he's explaining it and scientifically with proven methods is just amazing. And so that would just give me, an extra boost and just keep going. So just if you think if you think you're on a good healing process or whatever it is, it's not the end of it. You need to keep out there. You need to keep a lookout for what else is going on, to make yourself better. And I'm still on a continuing improving process. I have never stopped. Just because I healed myself, just because I got to a point where I was Crohn's free 6 years ago, it doesn't mean that I stopped improving myself.
Right.
I have continued that process until today.
With Bruce Lipton, I'm familiar with his book, The Biology of Belief. Is that what you're referring to, or another one of his?
Yes.
Biology of Belief. Got it.
Yes, that's the one. But I actually saw a presentation that he did, and I think it went for 3 or 4 hours, and it was based on the book, The Biology of Belief.
Okay.
And that presentation is what gave me that extra boost. That's what connected with me so much.
Wow. So going back to you were touched on it before, diet. How has your diet changed? It sounds like you had a limited diet while you were going through some of the Crohn's treatments, and now it's a little bit different. I know I was so amazed when we hung out in CBD in Sydney at that bar, and you ordered the beer, and I got like I think I ordered
Yeah.
a herbal tea or a hot water, I don't remember, and you got a beer. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's obviously eating. So how has
Yeah.
your diet changed, from then to now?
Yeah. So what I did is I for 18 months um until the point that I felt like I was completely healed, which took 18 months. I was very careful with what I did, with what I ate, with what I drank, and everything. And even smoking, I stopped smoking
Hmm,
cigarettes.
okay.
Now, so what I did is stop smoking. I stopped alcohol. I stopped fatty foods. I stopped sugar. I stopped even white rice. Instead of white rice, I would eat brown rice. I stopped certain other foods that contribute to things like diarrhea. And made sure that I ate foods that don't. And I ate a lot of green leafy vegetables. Certain fruits, not too much fruit, but certain fruits were okay, like apples and a few more. I have a diet plan still somewhere recorded. I don't remember all of it. I remember a bit of it, but if I would eat meat, so I'd make sure it was extremely lean and not too much of it. Chicken and fish is good. Um, so I went on that type of diet for quite a long time. But after the 9 months, when I saw the GI and you said continue doing what you're doing, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to continue. Not only am I going to continue doing what I'm doing, I'm going to continue my process. And my process was to to cure, right? At that time, in my head, at that time, it was to cure, but it's really to heal from Crohn's disease completely. So someone that does not have Crohn's disease can go and eat anything that they like, pretty much. Can go and drink as much as they like. Can go and drink as much as and smoke as much as they want, and they're not going to get Crohn's disease, right?
Right.
That's where I wanted to be, right? And that's what I felt I could be, right? So what I did, and I wanted to prove to myself that it wasn't diet or exercise that healed me. Although it helps, definitely diet and exercise helps so much. I wanted to prove that it was something much more than that, much deeper than that, which goes down to not just the mental, but the not just the way that I'm thinking, but also the way that I'm feeling and the way I'm managing my emotions, and how I look at things spiritual, how I am spiritually, and my own spiritual growth, and all of that. And I believe that's what it was that that helped, and as well as my lifestyle change, of course. And so I started introducing all my foods back. All the fatty foods came back, the meats, the junk food, even alcohol, and even smoking. Don't try this at home, but but I did introduce smoking back. I started smoking again, and I smoked for another. Uh, I smoked for 4, 5 years after that, without Crohn's coming back, without Crohn's being activated again. And I just quit smoking, just over a year ago because, just for my own personal health reasons. I just want to live longer.
Yeah, part of
uh,
part of your journey to continually better yourself may have been the quitting smoking.
that's right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because the reason I gave up smoking in the first time was so it could help me heal, right? But really, I wasn't ready to quit smoking.
Right.
All right, so to get myself ready to quit smoking, I started smoking again, and said to myself, I want to be ready to quit smoking, and I feel like I have got to myself to a place where I was ready, and so I did that. And so anyway, the reason I started smoking again was really just because of fun, because I enjoyed it. I started drinking again because I enjoy it. But the way that I would smoke was not as heavily as what I would used to. I would be more aware and more mindful of what I was doing to my body. The way that I would eat is more mindful now than I was before. So, although I introduced my fatty foods back, and some junk food on occasion, I wouldn't have as much junk food as what I used to.
Right.
And I would be more mindful of what I put into my body, and I
Gotcha.
would appreciate my food more, because I was able to enjoy my food so much more once I had healed.
Right.
Yeah, and so I think the difference is that I had just become more mindful of what I was doing to my body. That's all. And slowly, I weaned off my smoking. With the drinking, I still drink alcohol on occasion, but not a lot. I might have 3 or 4 beers. I won't go more than that. And usually, if I drink, it's rare, and I might have one or two usually, but 3 or 4 is the most that I'll go. Um,
And how's
and
your diet nowadays? Like, what's your favorite food? What do you typically eat? I'm sure it's very different now than previous years.
yeah, well, like I said, 5 years, 6 years ago, when I had healed from my Crohn's, I introduced all my foods back slowly, one at a time as well, and to the point where I was eating the same foods again. So since then, I have been slowly, very slowly, modifying my diets to eat healthier and healthier. Like now, I don't go. I haven't been to McDonald's for a burger for a very long time. And it's not just for health reasons. Actually, it's also because of I don't agree with the certain things that McDonald's does. To the to with their foods and also for the environment and for the animals as well.
Right.
And so it's more of a principle fact. Like as I'm improving myself, I'm not just improving myself health wise. It's also with my actions and what I do in life and where I present myself, how I present myself. So now my diet is more focused on vegetables than it's ever been. I'm highly focused on vegetables. Not not much meat. I might have a bit of chicken. Once or twice a week. I have fish quite often. Um, and I drink plenty of water and fluids and herbal teas. I do a lot of that, with my diet. Yeah.
So do you find that's for the moral reasons or for health reasons? Like, I guess the underlying question is, do you experience any, stomach, colon, pain symptoms today, whether you're on that no McDonald's diet or if you're on McDonald's, let's say?
No, 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 no symptoms whatsoever. Put it this. Let me explain it in another way. I never used to like spicy foods. In the past. Now, if I would have spicy foods, it would create flares for me. If I would drink alcohol, it would flare. I would flare up. And so therefore, spicy foods and alcohol was a big no-no.
Spicy foods.
Yeah, so now I love spicy foods now, and I have chili and hot and spicy curry all the time, every week. Like at least 3 or 4 times a week, I'll have a spicy meal, and it doesn't affect my Crohn's. There's no symptoms
Wow.
whatsoever, which means to me that and even when I was eating, even after I healed from Crohn's, there were times when I'd have a binge on junk food or something, and which I don't do anymore for my own health reasons. I would have a binge on junk food, and I would smoke, and I'll be drinking, and even have spicy foods and whatever, and do all the bad stuff that you're not supposed to do. And I even wasn't exercising at the time, and doing things that you're not supposed to do on Crohn's, and I would do them and still not get any flare-ups,
Mm.
and I would still feel normal. So, therefore, as far as I'm concerned, I have reached a point. I have definitely reached a point where I am symptom free. The old me would have said that I have cured myself, that it's a cure, but I'm saying that I have found a way to induce remission for myself and be healed from Crohn's.
Sure. Great, great. Okay,
All right.
that's amazing. Um, Let me ask this. So thinking back, I think one thing that the Crohn's colitis IBD community has is maybe funny bathroom stories. Do you have any funny, potentially embarrassing? You don't have to share if you don't want to. Bathroom or poop stories from back in the day.
um, I have a lot of embarrassing moments that I remember. Definitely, yeah. And sometimes I'll end up with poop on my clothes, and just from nowhere, and yeah.
Yeah,
There,
yeah,
but there were times when I remember what was the worst for me is the fact that every time I used to go out, he used to have to always find where the bathroom is.
right.
All right, wherever I used to go, where is the nearest bathroom? And I'm a big fan of the beach, and I remember going to the beach sometimes, and bathrooms were quite far away, and I'd be constantly worried that what if I have to go? What if I have to go? And there was once I remember that I did have to go, and I was walking, quite awkwardly, as fast as I could, to the bathroom, and I feel it feels fantastic to be free from that now.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you can relate too. That's great. Um, so I
yeah.
think you already covered this, but one of the questions I wanted to ask was, sometimes when I or others learn of people who've cured or healed themselves, whatever word they use, another skeptic would say, well, they never had UC or Crohn's in the first place. So I know you mentioned, you had two GIs confirm it, but is there any other indication that you had Crohn's? Anything else that you wanted to share around that?
Yeah, I have photos to prove it. Like, when they do a colonoscopy, they take photos.
Yep.
It shows polyps
Mm.
in my intestine. I have This happened a few times. So there, um, I've been tested many times because I've had what do you call it? Uh, what do you call it when they take a piece?
Oh, a biopsy.
Biopsy, yes.
Yeah.
I've had multiple biopsies that have shown that it is Crohn's disease. I've
Yeah. I mean, if it's up to
experienced
you,
all of the
so
symptoms.
it's up to you. But if you have access and wanted to share those photos, I'd be happy to put them alongside the interview and the article. It's up to you.
Yeah, I would have to get them from my GI. My GI still has them, I'm
Mm.
sure.
Cool.
But I'll have a look for them and see what I can find.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so like I guess I kind of know the answer, but like Linus from the Peanuts and his security blanket. That are there any items for you that are must-haves for you and optimal health? Some people love their morning smoothie, their morning juice. Some people must have their meditation time. Sex, love for themselves, whatever. Is there anything that Joe must have, whether you're at home or on the road? What's like most important for you at this current time?
Mm. I think living in the moment,
Mm,
being grateful for and appreciating everything that I have, no matter how big or small it is.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. You mentioned how I really liked what you said.
Yeah.
The gratitude for even the smallest thing. Just start small and build larger. Whether it's the sunshine's shining or the fact that you have two hands or whatever it is. You start small and get larger on the gratitude list, right?
Yeah, yeah. One thing that I learned from my partner when it comes to gratitude is, and the smallest thing to start with is just to be grateful for the fact that we can breathe.
Yep.
I'm breathing. I'm grateful for that. I'm alive. I'm grateful for that. And then I can see. So it's the very smallest things.
Beautiful.
Because there are those that don't have that. There are those that don't live long lives. Some children die at such a young age.
Yep.
And so I've lived a life. I've lived until I am now. So I'm grateful for that.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing.
It's that simple, isn't it?
It's what do I like to say? Sometimes the questions are complicated and the answers are simple from Dr. Seuss.
That's so very true.
It is, right?
Yeah,
So hey, I know we're talking for a long time. Just three more questions. I appreciate your time.
yeah.
So if you could go back in time And imagine yourself standing before yourself, the younger Joe at age 23, when you were diagnosed. What would you tell yourself?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, here you are later, almost 20 years later, with all the knowledge you've accumulated and the life you've lived, and the person there was probably, I'm assuming, I don't know, but probably a scared Joe who was just diagnosed with Crohn's, this unknown, debilitating disease. What would you maybe tell the person? If anything, maybe nothing.
yeah. Well, one thing that I've thought of telling the person is, uh, yeah, probably nothing is probably the right thing because if it wasn't for Crohn's, I wouldn't be where I am today and who I am, you know.
Wow.
And I'm really proud of myself today for the type of person that I am. Um, and if I didn't go through that process, then I wouldn't be here talking to you, would I? You know?
Exactly right. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that's the ultimate gratitude right there, right? You're so grateful for everything. There's nothing you could have said because life just turned out perfectly.
yeah. Well, it doesn't mean that I don't have my challenges. Of course, life is so full of challenges for me.
Hmm.
But it's not about what's around me that's turned out perfectly. It's about how I feel about myself. You know,
Right. Right.
I feel great about myself because I am now this person with gratitude. I'm a person with that is so much more compassionate than what I used to be. I have better goals now than what I used to have. And and things like that. And so therefore I feel better about myself.
Yeah.
I'm more caring. I'm more loving.
Cool.
So if I didn't have Crohn's disease, I might not have been that person, and that's someone that I would not like. You know,
Right. Sure.
I would not like to be. If you know what
Right.
I mean.
So maybe it's the same answer, but is there anything you would tell your younger self, say maybe years before you were diagnosed? So you were diagnosed at 23, I don't know, like a 10-year-old Joe or a 15-year-old Joe. Is there anything you would like to tell that person, or if you give them the opportunity?
Um, I would probably say, don't stress so much over money.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know,
Yep.
that's that's probably one thing I would say. Don't 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 stress. Don't try so hard to make so much money. Just do what you love and then find a way to make money after that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel what you're saying, but then, I think of people who might be listening who would say, yeah, but I have, children's mouths to feed, and I have the mortgage to pay, and I have car payments. What would you say to them potentially?
Yeah. Well, that's a difficult one. I would say, well, everybody has their own life to live, and there are reasons why, you need to continue if you feel that you need to continue that, and that's the best thing for you, then so be it.
Right.
But something else that's inside of you when you ask yourself questions. If there is something else that's inside of you that's not coming out of you, that you're holding inside, then you need to find a way to let that whatever is inside out, let that out of you in some form. And sometimes that can be more important than living where you're living right now, for example, or working where you're working right now, or doing what you're doing right now, or whatever it is. There could, whatever it is, we do what we do in order to survive. But I also think about those that uh, don't have as much. Like there are 800 million people in the world that don't have access to clean drinking water. And there are five. I think it's something like some crazy number, like 4 billion people that live on you know $20, less than $10 a day, or something like that. It's ridiculous, and there are people that are working for less than $1 an hour, and they don't have much. and they're happy, with what they have. Yet we live in a society where, we need to have the nice car, the nice house, the mortgage, the investments, the nice clothes, we need to go out to nice restaurants and spend money, and then we need to make more money so we can spend more and so on. So we get stuck into this way of living in society that um, disables part of what is inside of us. And so, my message is only to, find a way to allow that whatever is inside to be enabled to, be shown.
Yeah. No, I remember. I like traveling internationally, as you know, and I remember being down in Antigua, Guatemala, and just seeing the little girls serving freshly squeezed orange juice on the side of the road, and they just seemed so happy. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
really converse with them too much, but they just seemed so happy in the moment, and I felt so happy in the moment there, and there wasn't too much. I don't know, rent would have been super cheap there, and life would have been very simple, and I can definitely see it being a switch on the mentality of go 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 rush 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 in the big city versus somewhere over there. Um, so I think you've kind of already answered this, but is there anything else that you want to say to those that are listening that maybe you haven't covered? And I think that people listening would be maybe parents who have a child who has Crohn's or who has Crohn's disease, or children who are diagnosed, or someone maybe an adult just diagnosed, or someone else on the healing path. So maybe for that group of people, is there anything else that you wanted to add, or are you complete?
Yeah, something that I want to say is that one thing that's, I've talked to other people that have Crohn's disease, and most of the time the response is, that they don't feel good about what I have to say. Probably about 80% of the time.
Hmm.
In the last 6 years, ever since I was healed. And most of the time, and I don't know all of the reasons why, but some of the reasons could be because they might feel like they have themselves to blame for the way they feel, or they blame their parents for the way they feel because of their disease, or they blame, they just start putting blame everywhere, and the second one is, which is probably connected to the first one, is that they're not prepared to make changes in their lives to to better themselves, because they have responsibilities, they have family, they want to, they're living in society, as we talked about before. So it's sometimes it can be a catch-22. All I can say is that it's not about, I don't believe that it's anybody's fault whatsoever, and there's, like I said, I consider it a gift, you know and so it's important to look inside, for what is inside, what are the reasons why it's there. Look for that reason, and although you're not going to be able to find the answer right away, at least find something that you can say, okay, well, it might be that, because this is something that I would really, I think would really work for me. It could be anything. And so I think that with that comes also responsibility. You're then we can then become responsible to ourselves and claim 100% responsibility for ourselves and our health. Now that doesn't mean that we are to blame, because I think a lot of people have been confusing responsibility with blame. Um, it just means that we have the ability. So it's even in the word responsibility, there is the word ability. It's a response that we can make for ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. So, oh, good. Okay, great answer. So hey, so last question. You've conquered Crohn's. You overcame it. What is Joe big? What big things is Joe up to in the world today? What would you like to share? What amazing things are you doing now?
Well, I want to. I've taken a bit of time on my own. I'm living on my own at the moment in the Central Coast, in front of the beach, which I love. The beach is my favorite thing. I've been here for almost 6 months. I'm going to be here a bit longer. I've been finding myself more, and by finding myself more, I'm learning to step into my true self more, and knowing that the reason I'm here and is to help others. So, I'm looking at doing a course on life coaching, including wellness and health coaching. Um, I want to help others through their mission in life, help them find their purpose, help them find their path to healing. As everybody is unique and different, I believe that everybody has their own unique path to healing. One program does not work for every person. And so therefore, whatever I have said does not, just because it's worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But I think what's important is that everyone looks into that place inside themselves to find what it is or what it can be. What could it possibly be? And so that's, I want to keep talking to more people about that. I want to start, one person at a time, and work my way up to as many as I can, over the rest of my life. With that, I want to write a book as well, and want to do public speaking. I want to get myself out there. I'm passionate about it, and I'm passionate about giving and helping.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, it sounds like the underlying thing here is that the four, I forget what you call them, but the four pillars: the spirituality, the um, positive thinking, the emotions, and the exercise. That's the four pillars that you're grounded on when you talk to others as well.
Yeah, well, it's the spiritual, uh, yeah, the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, and the physical. So spiritual is the faith, the love, the wonder, the appreciation, the something beyond, something bigger than the self that is out there, um, that connects us all. The mental is for me is the way of thinking. Yeah. So it's the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, and the physical.
Mm.
Yeah. So spirituality, I think, is very important. And looking into ourselves and for what is spiritual about us I believe is very important. But spirituality is very different for everybody. Everyone is different. There are different facets of it. You know, it can be anything from religion to complete atheist. It can be science based. It can be, it's something that is bigger than us.
Mm.
That a power of something that is bigger than us that is there. And it's also about love and wonder and appreciation. Comes into that as well, which connects to other areas such as the mental. And the mental is about thinking, uh, having positive thoughts as well. Like not we can never get rid of our negative thoughts, but what's important is being able to see the positive side as well. And knowing that there are positive things out there, and having a positive outlook on not just life but on the world as a whole. One thing that I don't do anymore. I don't watch the news anymore. I used to watch the news, and the news, is full of doom and gloom. I think 80% of the news is just doom and gloom, and about war and about crime and about politics that's not working, and new taxes and this and that, and then I start looking around at the rest of the world, and there is so much more going on that is positive that is not being shown in the half an hour news session, or even the 1 hour news session, and so I would rather focus on what is positive than what is not, and I know that if I focus more on what is positive, I know that it can create, I'll be able to see more of that in my own life, and I look at what is good in my own life, and that connects to things like that. That's connected to appreciation, isn't it? Um, and so, and also about having, and there's faith, and having a belief, having positive beliefs about myself, building my own beliefs, giving myself that love. Giving self love is so important. And yes, and another thing I'd like to mention is support. It's also important to have support. You know.
Yeah.
And one thing, I had support from my ex-wife at the time. I had support from a couple of friends. But that's it. I didn't have support from my mother or my brother or other people. that were in my life, and because they were afraid that it wouldn't work, or they would tell me that I can't, But I thought it was good to have that support, and it's good to find ways to to stay on top of yourself, to stay positive, be around people that are going to lift you up, is important. You can't get away from those that don't, you know, and there could be people that you really care about that are not, you don't see as positive, but that's okay. As long as you also have people that you can be around that can lift you up, I think is very important. And having that positive attitude towards life, that's the mental. The emotional was how to deal with emotions, managing them, accepting that certain things don't make us feel good, being able to talk about them, being able to breathe through them. I use breathing techniques that I learned from yoga
Hmm.
to breathe through emotions. So I'd feel an emotion and breathe it in, breathe it out. So I breathe in something positive about it, and I breathe out the negative about it. So I'd find different ways to work through it. And just because I did that, it doesn't mean everybody else has to do that. To help. Everyone's got their own way, but managing emotions is extremely important. And awareness, it starts with awareness. And then there was the physical is things like diet, exercise, stopping smoking and things like that. I did alternative medicine treatment, and you don't have to do that either. But you need to find out what it is that's right for you. You know, but digging deeper into all of those areas, there is something else that I think is pinnacle when it comes to the healing process, and that goes down to, and I've mentioned this to you before, Joel, earlier today, and that's the well, I believe that we all have a gift. We're all on this planet. We've all been given a gift inside, and that gift is truly unique, to each one of us as individuals. And finding what that is, finding that place, that uniqueness, and being able to step into yourself, um, I think is extremely important. And I feel that the closer we get to stepping into what it is that is our true self, the more it will help our healing process. Because I feel that those four pillars that you mentioned, which I call the four bodies, they all connect to that one single life purpose, you know, our purpose in life. They all connect to that. So for me, it was about letting go of my old business. I had an IT business which I owned, I had staff, and it was causing me a lot of stress.
Mm.
And part of and letting go of that letting go of that business allowed me to see other things about me, about myself, and about what I would want to do for myself, and about my life that get me closer aligned to my true self, and what I believe my purpose is.
Yeah, gift and purpose is so aligned with each other, and I'm really big on what some guys call purpose work, whether through David Data or other teachers, and I definitely see a lot of healing through that because you're following what your heart's aligned with, and not necessarily what others are telling you you should be doing, etc.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for your time. This was really valuable, and I know a lot of people will get value from this as well.
You're welcome.